just disappeared. I'd like to blame technical difficulties. The technical difficulty might have been that I pressed the cross by accident while I was wielding my phone around. I'm not sure. But anyway, let's continue with the lesson. Here we are. I'm going to say that this one is animal pollinated. Animal pollinated, not necessarily insect pollinated, because some flowers have evolved to only open at night when bats are flying around, because bats pollinate them. Pollinated. Some plants are even pollinated by lizards, not many. Okay, so this flower has evolved to be pollinated by the wind. So it wants, so it reproduces when pollen blows off its anthers and onto the sticky stigma of a different flower, okay? And this one has evolved so that animals, usually insects like bees and butterflies, pick up pollen from one plant and move it to the sticky stigma of another plant. Okay, so get your big grains. And first of all, we'll say that our big grains are pollen, and we're going to try and wind pollinate our flower. So hold your fingers quite high above. Try and note how high you're holding them above the stigma. Let's give it a fighting chance. I'm going to hold them directly above the stigma and drop my pollen grains and see how many pollen grains hit the stigma. Oh, that wasn't bad. I got one direct hit. Not too bad, but as you can see, I sprinkled an awful lot of pollen grains, really pretty close to the stigma, and still only one hit. So wind pollination, not terribly efficient. Let's do the animal pollinated one now. Now you can behave slightly differently. You can pick up your pinch of whatever it is again, your big seeds. But now let's imagine that your hand is a bit, oh, wait, no, we need to do something else. We need to attract our pollinator. So if your hand is a bee, you need to give your bee a reason to come over here. Let's draw a flower around this stigma. Because this is what flowers that are pollinated by animals do. So we're only talking about flowers here. Let's make it really nice and colourful. So some flowering plants have evolved to be pollinated by the wind. Not that many, about 12%. And the rest are pollinated by animals. So if you got my magazine, my last magazine on colour, you might have read me say that some animals can see UV light. Just another wave, like any other wave. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet are the waves that we've evolved to be able to see. But there is another wave called ultraviolet that we can't see, but insects can. So a lot of plants, if you look at them through ultraviolet, they've actually got really obvious, like almost kind of landing pads around them to kind of attract the bee and draw the bee's attention to where the plant, where it would help if the bee landed. So, okay, we've got some nice colour. We'll also say that our flower has a nectary. So let's say there's lots of lovely sweet liquid being made from the nectary just underneath the stigma. And it smells really nice as well, okay? So all the things that would attract you to a cake are attracting a bee to this flower. Right, now get a pinch of your big pollen grains and pretend that your hand is a bee. So it goes over, which one's it going to choose? Well, obviously it's going to choose this flower because it's beautiful and colourful and it smells great and it's got a tasty liquid. So have a little drink for the nectar, yum, 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 and fly away. Wow, look. That is well pollinated, isn't it? What I'm trying to show you with this exercise is that it's far more efficient to be pollinated by animals, all right? That's why the vast majority, I suppose, of flowering plants are pollinated by animals. There is a downside to being pollinated by animals. It takes a lot of energy to make that beautiful flower, okay? It uses up a lot of the plant's energy. It's an awful lot of effort to produce a gorgeous flower and delicious sticky liquid that the bees want to drink and to smell really nice as well. So wind-pollinated plants, they're not doing any of that. They're keeping it simple. But they do have some tricks up their sleeve. So I'd like you to get your powder now, if you brought some flour or some powdery stuff with you. That is far more representative of the kind of pollen that wind-pollinated plants give off. So wind-pollinated flowers give off far smaller... There's going to be a GCSE question about this. This is why I'm going on about it, because I want you to get the answer right in a minute. The pollen of flowering plants that are wind-pollinated are much smaller and lighter, and there's loads more of it, absolutely loads more of it, because we've seen how you need to scatter loads and loads of pollen around to have even a chance of getting any onto the stigma, and also it's in the air. These are the reasons why if you get hay fever, it's the wind-pollinated flowers that are giving you hay fever. Because obviously, think about it, the animal pollinated plants, their pollen is sticking to the back of a bee, so it's not getting at my nose, whereas wind-pollinated plants are giving off massive clouds, loads of pollen grains, that all are in the air. Obviously, that's the whole point. Right, so on that note, let's scatter some fine-grained pollen onto our wind-pollinated plant and see what happens. And get a big handful, okay, because there's a lot more wind-pollinated grains. So I'm going to try and hold it the same distance above. Oh, look at that. Hooray! So wind-pollinated plants, pretty boring to look at, not colourful, no smell, no tasty liquid, but they do give off the right kind of pollen for the job. Well done, wind-pollinated plants. Very quickly, I keep saying wind-pollinated plants. Strictly speaking, we're talking about wind-pollinated flowers, one of which is the sweet corn. It's good news because I tried to grow one in my garden and I failed, so I can show it to you. Look, this is a picture of a sweet corn. So you might have seen them growing. They've got these big feathery bits at the top, coloured yellow. That's the male bit of the plant, which is giving off the pollen. So you can kind of tell it's evolved well. It's very tall. The pollen bit's right at the top, so if it moves around in the wind, all that pollen is going to be able to gush off. Where's the female part of the plant? I don't want to sound like a YouTube video. This is going to blow your mind. These stringy bits. These annoying stringy bits on your corn on the cob that you've got to keep pulling off. I told you it was a bad time to do a lesson on flowers. That's the female part of the plant. So the idea is that the pollen falls down and lands on the little corn on the cobs. And each string is attached to a kernel. And if it gets fertilised, it becomes a seed. How good is that? So those stringy bits have a purpose after all. And that's the top part in real life from my garden. Good, eh? But yeah, you can see, so during the summer, this part would be a flower, but you probably never even noticed it. I didn't actually. It's quite a boring flower because it's not interested in attracting animals. Okay. Are you ready for GCSE questions? I feel you are. I really feel that you are. If you go to my Facebook group and you get the free printout, then I have added an extra question because I thought it would be very useful for you to try from total memory without looking at any notes to sketch a flower and label it and say what all the different parts do. So I'll give you a couple of minutes on this because I think you might be best doing that first. Let's zoom you in, spin you around, show off my awesome retro cardigan. Move that, pull that down. Here we go. Right, I think you're going to do all right here. If you've been listening, it was a lot of information, a lot of words. Here we are. Don't forget, we do not do these GCSE questions to check whether you're going to pass your GCSEs. I don't care if you get all of these wrong. In fact, that would be good because then you'd remember the answer. And if you're thinking about doing a GCSE at some time eventually, then hopefully this will help you because it'll help you see what the examiner's looking for. So, summary questions. What is the difference between pollination and fertilisation in plants? I think that's quite tough. We've done a lot on fertilisation, so don't get those confused. What's the difference between pollination and fertilisation in plants? And to help you, I've said maybe you'd want to use the words anther, stigma, insects, pollen, and ovary in your description. And the second one, which you might want to do straight away, sketch a flower and label as many parts as you can. And try and write a sentence saying what each part does. I'll do it in a minute, so you can write down any ones that you got wrong. I think that's a great idea because any that you don't remember, you'll definitely remember them when I give you the answer. But your GCSE questions are, the diagram shows the inside of a flower. Label parts A, B, C and D. So A is the sort of very tallest point. You've got a bulb at the bottom and a sort of long stick coming off the bottom of the bulb right to the top. So A is the top of the stick. And then you've got some little sticks with dots on the end surrounding that bulbous bit. The ball on top of the stick is called B. The little stick itself is called C. And the bulby bit at the bottom is called D. And I've put, where does fertilisation occur? I've said 4 marks. That can't be right, can it? That's a bit harsh. Let's say 5 marks for that. There we go. Where does fertilisation occur in that diagram? A, B, C or D. Question number 2. Suggest why insects rarely visit wind-pollinated plants. Suggest why insects rarely visit wind-pollinated plants. 2 marks for that. And same part of question 2. Some people are allergic to pollen produced by flowering plants. Suggest why wind-pollinated plants are more likely to cause these allergies than insect pollinating ones. That's still horrible English. But some people are allergic to pollen produced by flowering plants. Suggest why wind-pollinated plants are more likely to cause these allergies. There, that's 2 marks as well. Whew, that's a lot, isn't it? Right, I'm legitimately going to stop talking for a bit and have a look at my comments. Ah, Oscar, Leon and Yumi are here. Oh, and you even sat through my singing of the Gummy Bears theme tune. Awesome. Hello, Oscar and Leon and Yumi. Good to see you. Yeah, I'm gonna just try and remain silent to give you a couple of minutes to get sketching that plant. Where's the what's the sepal? Can you remember, where does the sepal go? Peter, Mohammed, are you doing this? I'm saying it like you're together, you're not. I happen to know that you two are two of the people who watch this back afterwards. Okay, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna give you the answer, because if you're watching this back, then you can just pause it if you'd like a bit more time, can't you? You ready? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna give you the answers. Here we go. So A was the stigma. Well done if you got that, the sticky stigma. B was the anther, yeah, the male part that makes the pollen. C was the filament, and D, well, I can't use the same diagram that the exams use for copyright reasons, so you could have put ovary, but I would have been very happy if you'd put ovule as well. Very, very unclear diagram. Where does fertilisation occur? Well, again, you could have had either of those answers, actually, the ovary or the ovule, but part D, isn't it? Let's say. Well done if you got that. Suggest why insects rarely visit wind-pollinated plants. This one was tricky. Did you get this one? So the first one was, now we had someone in the Facebook lesson the other day saying drab and dreary, which is correct and an excellent answer, but not a very GCSE answer. Can you be a bit more specific? If you've put something like not attractive, again, attractive can be what something looks like, but it doesn't have to be, does it? Like, you know, a person who's very attractive might be attractive because they've got a great sense of humour. What is it about the plants that makes them attractive? Well, one of the things is colourful. So an insect wouldn't visit a wind-pollinated plant because they're not colourful. And another reason would be they have no nectar, or no nectary, if you want to be fancy. That's the bit that makes the nectar. If you forgot the word nectar and you just put sweet liquid, you'd probably get away with that. Well done for being resilient and not just saying, I can't do it. And the last one is no smell. So it's very similar to how like freshly baked bread or cake attracts humans. No smell. Some people are allergic to pollen. Why would wind-pollinated plants be more likely to give you hay fever? Because the pollen is small and light, so it's sort of more easily travelling through the air. I'm afraid you don't get 1 mark each for that. It's just small or light gets a mark. Another mark would be airborne. Airborne with an E on the end, isn't it? So it's in the air, ready to go up your nose. And the last one, which one have I missed? It's in the air, it's small and light. Oh yeah, and there's loads of it. Lots of it. I mean, actually always a better word to use at GCSE is like a comparative word. So instead of loads of it, I'm going to say more of it, because that shows that I know that animal pollinated plants don't give off as much. So well done if you got those. You could pick out any right answer from that. What's the difference between pollinisation and fertilisation? I thought I'd stick this one in because I thought they're quite similar words and you might get confused. So if you've said that fertilisation is when the sperm meets the egg, or the pollen meets the ovule, or the pollen gets into the ovary, any of that would be fine. Fertilisation happens once that pollen tube has come down the stigma, through the style, the entire length of the carpel, all the way to this bottom ovary. That's fertilisation, happens when sperm meets the egg. And pollination is pollen from the anther travelling to the stigma and landing on the stigma. Okay, so well done if you got that. And finally, sketch a flower and label as many parts as you can. Let's see how you did there. So the first bit I would draw is the sort of, how far have I got? About that far. First thing I would draw is this sort of helicopter landing pad, which is the stigma. What's its job? I'll put sticky, so the pollen sticks to it. And then underneath that, shall I label the style? Oh, go on then. I'll show off how many words I know. I'm not going to say what its job is, because its job is to just be between the ovary and the stigma, from what I can tell. The bulby bit at the bottom, that's the ovary. What's inside the ovary? The ovules. I suppose if you could put stores the ovules. The ovary is actually the bit that turns into the fruit. So the ovules turn into the seed of the plant. Ovules. What's that? I suppose I'll put to be fertilised. Quite right, because they've got eggs inside them. Fertilised. That's it, isn't it, for the carpel? Oh, shall I be really posh? I didn't do this in any other lesson and label the whole carpel. Yeah, like a biologist. So that's the whole thing, is the carpel. Whew. And let's do the male part then. We've got a long sort of stick coming off the ovary. That's the filament. And a nice big cloudy anther covered in pollen at the top. That's the anther. And what word have I missed? Come on, you know. The word for all that together, which is the stamen. Actually, it's stamen, isn't it? Stamen. Is that everything? If you're very lucky at GCSE, they'll ask you about to label like this thing, the petal. But I didn't bother to mention petal because I figure you probably already know what petal is, but let's label it for completeness. Phew! And there we go. Wow, that is a very poor diagram for a plant, but I did get all the words in. So well done if you got all those words. Right, you lot. That is the end of our lesson. I will now tell you how I'm managing to do this for free, because it's totally amazing, isn't it? It's an amazing business model. But to be honest, I could do with a few more supporters. I never want to charge for anything, but if I'm going to keep doing this as my job and not go back to school, then I need to start being better at advertising. So here we go. Are you ready? Can I pull that away? Saying that, I don't want to pull you away from the answers because I want you to do well in biology GCSE. Oh, the constant dilemma. Right, I'm flipping you back because this is YouTube, so of course you can just watch it later. Oh, hello, if you're still here, thank you. Sorry about the Christmassy background if you're watching this in March. My name is Lara. I just put all my lessons out for free. So I'm trained to teach science to GCSE, physics to A-level. But instead of doing like private tuition, where I just have to teach a very small amount of people, like on Zoom, I'm just doing this where I teach as many people who want to come, live on Facebook a couple of times, because there's a big comment stream there for people who like to comment, and then live on YouTube for people who prefer to watch it back without lots of streams of comments. If you would like to allow me, keep me doing this for free, because the printouts are free, I just make everything free that would help you pass your GCSEs. I don't want to hold anything back that would help people get to university. There's enough barriers to learning science anyway. But I am extremely grateful to all my supporters because I couldn't do this without them. So this is Theatre of Science magazine. If you go to my Facebook homepage, Children Not You, But if you go to my Facebook homepage or my YouTube channel and click like sign up or a link that says coffee on it, then you get to a website called Coffee, which tells you how you get fit with Science Magazine. It's pretty good value, isn't it? It comes out every 2 months. And if you support me with £5 a month, then you watch all the lessons knowing that you're making them happen, and you get this posted through the door for 2 months. So this one's on colour. I will still send you this if you sign up now. Every magazine generally has, she says generally, they all have so far, got comic in them that my husband illustrates. This one is on colour, so it's on Monet and how he had a superpower that he didn't like. It's got activities that I can't do in the lessons for various reasons, but that I think are cool. It's got quizzes. It's very good. It takes me blooming ages. I'm always behind with it, but that's because it's good, frankly. I'm very proud of it. Thank you so much to everyone who's getting through the Science Magazine. I'm now doing a thing where if you support me with £6 a month, I'll send you some extra cool stuff. But some people are getting them for Christmas, so I'm not allowed to say what they are yet. All right, that's my ads. Yeah, that's everything. This is actually, if you're watching in the near future, this is my last show before Christmas, which is deeply exciting. So, I'm finished for Christmas. It's the Christmas holidays. And then on the 4th of January, we're doing the rock cycle. Yes! We're not going to talk about ovaries ever again. We've got the whole term of the rock cycle. It's going to be very exciting. I think we're probably going to have to use a lot of food and do like sedimentary and volcanoes, and that's going to be very cool. Okay, and obviously in January my show starts up as well with the like Lego story time every week on different subjects, usually a bodily fluid or an animal, because I tend to be led by you guys. But yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you are watching before Christmas, then have a very lovely Christmas, and I'll see you soon. Bye.